I'm a 44-year-old man, and my wife is 39. We've been married for over 15 years. Although we initially stopped at 4 kids, we are expecting a surprise baby in December. It's a significant event since my wife hasn't been pregnant in 5 years. While she's excited, it becomes problematic when she brings it up in inappropriate situations. For instance, there was a tragic hit-and-run incident in our town, and during the vigil, my wife said something like, "I'm so thankful that our baby is okay. I couldn't live with myself if this vigil was for one of our children or the baby." I know a few people were hurt because they gave us dirty looks and scoffed. I love my wife, but there are things you just shouldn't say, especially when a couple is mourning their dead child. But this post isn't about that situation. It's about something else entirely. My brother married a woman who immigrated from Iran a little over 8 years ago. She's a lovely woman and we're happy to have her as part of the family. If you're familiar with the protests in Iran, you can understand where this is going. My sister-in-law has been anxious and having breakdowns because she can't reach some of her family members. Some of her relatives have been protesting, and after hearing about Amanda Ismail's passing, she deteriorated even more. She's been crying, not eating, and avoiding showers. She cut off all her hair to show support. But what she really needs is to know that her family is okay. My wife and I visited them, brought some meals, and planned a spa day for the ladies. While eating, my sister-in-law began to cry silently. My wife, instead of offering comforting words, said to her, "I know how you're feeling. This pregnancy has been hard. It's hard to eat, and I cry that something might go wrong because of my age. But both of us will make it through this. Now let's go to the salon and do something about that hair." My wife had a genuine smile on her face, and my sister-in-law cried even harder. I apologized, escorted my upset wife out of their house, and got into the car, fuming. When my wife noticed I was upset and asked why, I said, "Stop making everything about you in this pregnancy. Sister-in-law is having night terrors because of what's happening in her country. Worried sick that her family members may possibly die for protesting. Yet you go and compare her issue to your pregnancy." My wife tried to explain her reasoning, saying she was just trying to make her feel better. How is commenting on her hair and comparing her pregnancy to the situation in Iran going to help? My wife insisted she did nothing wrong, but there's a time and a place for everything. My wife went to her parents, and I've been getting calls from my in-laws accusing me of not caring about my wife's pregnancy. Am I at fault here? Yikes. This seems delusional. This pregnancy seems to have affected her worse than baby brain. I'm not sure what's going on. It's just plain rude and very selfish. She can't seem to look outside her own bubble. Pregnancy isn't easy for everyone, but completely disregarding other people's feelings is on another level. I wonder if she talks about it constantly because she's super insecure and may be guilty about it. Update. Married for almost 20 years, we have 4 kids and there's another one on the way. Recently discovered that my 39-year-old wife, due in December, has been cheating on me. Shockingly, my 15-year-old found out about the affairs. It's only been a couple of days, and I'm still trying to process everything. After reviewing the evidence, it seems the affair has been going on for over 4 years. I haven't confronted my wife about the affair yet, but I'm thinking about doing it soon. Maybe after the baby is born. Even though the baby might not be mine, I still care deeply for my wife and don't want to cause damage. I realize I should probably start looking for legal advice, separate our finances, and gather more evidence. However, part of me wants to try to fix things, or at least avoid feeling both hatred and love for her. Initially, I thought about lying to my daughter to protect her mother, but she's too smart for that. I'm unsure how to navigate through this situation without letting hatred consume me, especially for the sake of our kids. The impending divorce will turn our lives upside down, and I'm worried about how it will affect our children. Considering a DNA test for the girls, aged 15, 10, and 5, twins, but it might hurt them. The possibility that the twins may not be my children adds another layer of pain. Just writing about this is giving me a headache. I've been calling out of work, but I need to get my head on straight. Update. The twins and the newborn aren't mine. I talked to my wife about it. She's sorry, but doesn't regret it. She loves the other guy. Her parents knew about the affair long before I did and helped by letting them meet at their home. To avoid embarrassment, they didn't want to risk humiliation and also didn't want to separate the twins from their real dad. Her whole family is heavily involved in the church. My 15-year-old and 10-year-old are staying with my brother and sister-in-law because I can't take care of them right now. They hate their mom, won't talk to her, and are both in therapy. I tried taking the twins to be with their sisters, but my wife resisted. I'm sure the affair partner is with her now. I saw his car heading to my in-laws' house. He's also married, and I've been in touch with his wife, who's filing for divorce. I haven't asked if they're trying to work things out, and frankly, I don't care. Screw him, my wife, and my stupid in-laws. I used to think my in-laws were uptight. I'm glad they're all being ostracized, kicked out of the church, and erased from its social media. I'm glad they're being humiliated, facing what they feared the most. My mother-in-law called me crying, asking me to clear things up. What's there to clarify? Father-in-law wanted me to work things out, but I asked if he'd do the same in this situation. He stayed silent before hanging up. My wife has been trying to reach out, but I refuse to answer. Seeing her frantic to contact me brings me a bit of satisfaction. I don't know what she wants, and I don't want to talk to her anytime soon, even though I know I'll have to. Before getting the results, I was ready to take her to court for custody of the twins. I feel pathetic. Going to work is a struggle, and my coworkers pity me. I don't even grocery shop anymore. I feel pathetic. Going to work is a struggle, and my coworkers pity me. I don't even grocery shop anymore. I can feel everyone looking and whispering. I've lost about 15 pounds since this whole thing came to light. I can barely get any sleep. Therapy is not helping. This has been the worst year of my life. I regret not keeping quiet in the car a few months ago. If I had, I'd be enjoying time with the newborn and decorating the house. The house is silent. It should be loud with my daughters laughing and arguing. I should be changing diapers, hearing my wife try to outperform Mariah Carey. The house should smell sweet and be warm, filled with happiness and life. Now it's just cold, empty, and quiet. Everything I did feels like it was for nothing. I wanted a happy adulthood after a sad childhood, but I can't seem to win. I always lose. I don't feel like a man. I don't even feel human. Second story. I'm a 29-year-old woman who was married to my ex, a guy in his 30s for 8 years. He cheated on me when I was pregnant with our second child in 2017. I forgave him, went to therapy, and thought he'd change. However, I caught him having another affair in 2021, so I decided to leave him. I used to rely on him for everything: finances, clothing, routine, everything. Leaving him was scary initially as he managed everything for so long. I got married at 20, quite young and naive, never having been on my own. So I faced many challenges at the beginning. Fortunately, when I left, I already had a career, though it didn't pay much. He contributed 75% of our family income, so I feared affording an attorney, but I did it. I saved money and hired a reasonably priced local attorney who guided me through the divorce, and I obtained primary custody. The divorce was finalized in May 2022. I lived with my mom from October 2021 until October 2022. I distinctly remember him telling me when I left that I'd never succeed without him, never afford an apartment for me and the kids, that everything I was owed to him. This drove me to work hard this year to achieve my dreams independently. I took extra jobs, sold my beloved truck, saved money rigorously, and I'm thrilled to say it's true. You can make it on your own. As a single mom, your situation may seem tough now, but you can make it. I'm pleased to say I closed on my home in October, a beautiful one, 400-square-foot house on a 0.3-acre lot in an amazing neighborhood. The mortgage takes almost half of my monthly income, but I don't mind. I'm happy on my own. I did it on my own. I attend therapy every Saturday, have a good routine with my sons. We get to come home every day, eat, wear and do whatever we want. I'm even seeing a guy and I don't feel insecure. I love my life right now. I decided not to forgive again. The hard work and struggle were entirely worth it. I'm not sure how my life will develop in the next few years, but I'm proud to say it will happen on my terms. And I survived infidelity. P.S. He didn't call CPS on me because I called his bluff and told him it was a crime to make a malicious call. He backed off, still a pain, but that's another story. I love you all, and I hope you achieve success and peace, which you will. Good night from Texas. I hope you achieve success and peace, which you will. Good night from Texas. Third story. Background: my girlfriend, Lola, and I were raised in a sizable town with almost 20,000 people. Even though we both went to the same high school, we never crossed paths until a few years ago when we started talking seriously. After finishing college, I got a job that involved a lot of travel within the state, wanting to handle business in both the state and my hometown. I asked for an office at my hometown's branch. They agreed since there were no business representatives there. After a few months, I settled into a routine of 1 to 2 weeks at the city office, 1 week in my hometown, and 1 to 2 weeks traveling around the country. After a year, I made the decision to buy a house in my hometown. I met Lola at a Friday party right after returning from one of my trips. While checking paperwork in my office, Bob, the managing director and a colleague, walked in. Bob and I had grown up together, forming a close friendship. Despite attending different high schools since college, he asked how things were and invited me to a house party that he and his buddies were throwing that evening. Despite the short notice, I said yes, thinking a few drinks with friends would be beneficial. At the party, Bob introduced me to Lola, a new hire at the branch in my hometown. We hit it off right away, having attended the same high school. Everything went smoothly. Lola got along with my parents, and her parents were happy that someone could make her as happy as she was. Despite her past relationship issues and struggles with depression, we decided to take the next step after 2 years of dating, and she moved into my house in my hometown. Everything was going well for nearly a year. Then, things started to change. FaceTime sessions were cut short, where she claimed to be too busy to answer the phone. Suddenly, neighbors started telling me about a car described as similar to my friend Bob's, a black Chevy Camaro. It was always seen parked in the back alley near my house whenever I was away, or clothes not mine were found in my wardrobe. All signs pointed to her cheating, but she insisted that nothing was happening and I was overthinking things. She explained that Bob would occasionally come over to discuss business, etc., but never stayed the night. I brushed it aside, considering myself paranoid, and carried on as if nothing was wrong. Yet, there was always this nagging feeling that something wasn't quite right. I discovered she had been lying to me. Nearly 6 months later, after completing a rather large contract with a new company, I decided to book an earlier flight home and surprise everyone. Fast forward a few hours, as I drove into my hometown and down the alley behind my house to surprise Lola without being seen. A part of me was curious about whether this mystery car was there. Sure enough, a car was blocking the back entrance gate. Confused for a moment, I realized it was Bob's car, a black Chevy Camaro. If it hadn't been for the high hedge, the line I had put in a few years back for privacy, I might have driven past my own place. Pulling up behind his car, I got out and found it strange that he was there so late, contrary to what she claimed, that he always left by now. Approaching the back of the house, I saw something that made my heart drop into my stomach. There in the kitchen, Lola and Bob were passionately involved. I stood there completely still as if time had frozen. My best friend and my girlfriend were having closeness on my dining table in my own house. I felt lost, not knowing what to do, with a rush of thoughts flooding my mind. Was I dreaming or was this reality? Why were they engaging in such a private act in my home? Feeling disheartened, I turned away without them noticing. I drove for what seemed like an eternity, shedding tears, but my sadness quickly transformed into anger. I had a strong desire to damage them, but violence was against my principles. That's when I decided to take matters into my own hands and bring ruin to both of their lives. And what better time to start than now? I drove back up the alley, positioning myself far from my driveway to still see Bob's car. Then, I walked back to the gate, where I could peer into the house, and called her phone. When it rang, both of them glanced at the caller ID, shocked to see my name. I noticed she was considering answering, and they let it ring for a moment before getting back to their activities. The phone rang again, and this time, she picked up. As she answered, I hung up and returned to my car. Moments later, she called me back, questioning why I was calling so late. I informed her I was about 15 minutes from home and didn't want to startle her upon my arrival. She appeared surprised and happy about my return. The call ended shortly after she mentioned getting up to change. I bid farewell and hung up. A few moments later, Bob rushed through the gate half undressed, hopped into his car and sped away. I chuckled a bit, knowing the fear they must have felt being so close to getting caught. I waited a while before turning my car into the same spot Bob had occupied moments earlier. The night remained relatively uneventful, and it wasn't until after she fell asleep that I got up and went to my office down the hall. Sleep evaded me. I needed a plan, and plan revenge I did. My mother always taught me to be a pacifist and let karma take its course. However, on this occasion, I felt karma needed a nudge. I decided to punish them separately but thoroughly. I knew Bob had a minor medication habit, though nothing major, and he kept it well hidden. I discovered it accidentally when I stumbled upon him using cocaine in his office, but I pretended not to notice. Some weeks later, I had friends over, including Bob, for some drinks. After ensuring Bob was sufficiently drunk, I told him to stay the night. I took his office keys, drove to our branch office and went to work, knowing he was deeply intoxicated and wouldn't wake until morning. I searched his desk and drawers, especially the one where I had seen him stash his cocaine. Upon further examination, I found a false bottom. Lifting it, I hit the jackpot. While I thought he used regular medicaments like white powder, what I saw was much worse. He had various substances in there. I took photos, put everything back, and before leaving, I installed a small spy button camera from Alibaba right above the door. Everything was set, and the plan was gradually coming together. Judging by the medicaments I found in his drawer, Bob had to be using medicaments at least twice a day. I once suggested to my girlfriend that we install CCTV cameras for added security, but she hesitated due to concerns about hacking. Reflecting on it now, I understand her worries. So before returning to the city for a flight, I staged a break-in by smashing the back pane of my back door into my kitchen, leaving it open. Upon arriving, I received several messages. One from my visibly panicked mom, who found the back door smashed and called the police. Another from a distraught Lola in tears, and one from the local police asking me to call. After returning the calls, I informed the police I was away on business and would talk to them the following week. While away, I had Lola stay with my parents until my return. I asked my dad to arrange for a local security company to install cameras and an alarm system, getting approval from the police to avoid disrupting the crime scene. After getting home, I went through the routine of expressing disbelief and questioning why this happened. I had the security company representatives guide Lola and me on how the cameras and alarm system work. Finally, the question I had been anticipating came up. What if we engage in business, and I prefer not to have a record of it? When she asked, she pretended to be shy, but I understood the true reason behind her question. He reassured us that it was a common inquiry and demonstrated on the home computer how to prevent recording for specific cameras, ensuring her privacy. While seeing him off, I inquired whether turning off the cameras could trigger a security notification, to which he returned, guided me through setting up email notifications, and then left. Subsequently, after Lola's grocery shopping, I strategically placed spy button cameras all around the house, creating an ideal setup. Now, all I needed to do was wait. At this point, I sought guidance from legal advice groups on Reddit regarding the couple's law in my country. I wanted assurance that my upcoming plan could be executed legally without facing financial obligations to Lola. I didn't want any surprises where she could claim money. A shout out to the helpful individuals on Reddit who connected me with a fantastic lawyer. He assured me that, despite dating for nearly 4.5 years, we hadn't lived together long enough to be classified as a de facto couple. The fact that I covered all utilities on the property she lived in without paying rent demonstrated she had no legal standing to make a financial claim. Just to be sure, he drafted a solid legal document. More positive news followed when my boss offered me a promotion to lead the team in the city, reducing my travel. Due to the success of my hometown's office, they considered having 5 to 7 representatives spend 1 to 2 weeks in larger surrounding towns, including my hometown. As part of my team, I accepted and initiated the transfer process, which would take about 6 weeks. It was perfect, more than enough time to gather all my evidence. Upon returning to my hometown the following week, I began executing the rest of my plan. I requested a favor from Bob to approve 1 week's vacation for Lola for 2 weeks. I wanted to send her and a friend or two on a short break. He agreed, congratulated me on being ready to retake the leap, and reserved the week for me. I asked him not to disclose anything as I wanted to make it a big surprise, fully aware that news would spread around the office. That was my plan. That night, I informed Lola that I had booked her and 2 friends for an all-expenses-paid tropical spa resort trip for a week. I instructed her to pick 2 friends and return to the biggest surprise of her life. I then shared that the following week, I would be in the city preparing for a crucial client and I wouldn't be home until the Monday she was leaving, disappointing her a bit, but I assured her it would be worth it when she returned. What I omitted was my decision to take a 2-week vacation on the other side of the country, mentally preparing myself for the challenges that would rise the moment she stepped foot on the plane, while also relishing my first taste of freedom on Sunday. 2 weeks later, I returned by flight and began driving home. Upon arrival, I quickly passed by my house, confirming Bob's car was there. Similar to the initial night I caught them, I parked a bit away and checked the live CCTV cameras, but they were nowhere to be found. Switching to the spy cameras, including the one hidden in the bedside lamp, I discovered them engaged in relationship activity in my bedroom. since we hadn't installed any CCTV in our bedroom. She probably felt it was a secure place on our bed. Not surprisingly, I had consistently recorded them doing this over the 2 weeks I was away. I then placed my first call to the police, hiding my caller ID. I informed them that, as a concerned neighbor, I observed someone lingering in their car in the alley behind my house, occasionally passing items to passing cars, and appeared to be dealing medicaments. Worried about the situation, I provided Bob's car license plate and description, identifying him as the suspected dealer. They assured me they'd have someone there shortly, so I thanked them and hung up. Next, using a newly created email, I sent all the videos from the spycam capturing Bob in his office doing medicaments and the photos from the other night to his boss. I also alerted Lola, telling her I was about 10 minutes from home and eager to surprise her. Reflecting on the footage later, I chuckled at the chaos I caused and was surprised I didn't hear any commotion. In a matter of seconds, Bob emerged, half-dressed, and rushed out to his car through the back door. It was a perfect scene. Bob sped away, and one of the police cars behind me gave chase. After warmly welcoming and excited Lola and going through typical couple activities, she fell asleep. However, I couldn't sleep a wink. The next day, she and her friends were driven away. Once they left, I waited a few hours before initiating my plan. I contacted a friend who worked as a removalist, apologized for the short notice, and arranged for my place to be packed and moved. On Friday, we agreed on a time, and I instructed him to take specific boxes to a storage facility, which he agreed to without a problem. Then, I began packing Lola's belongings. Later that day, I received a call from the police asking me to identify if I knew Bob and whether I suspected him of any suspicious activities or medicament involvement. Given our town's strict stance on medicament law enforcement, I expressed pretended shock and denied any knowledge. It turned out they had apprehended Bob the previous night with a significant amount of hard and illegal medicaments in his vehicle. Smiling to myself, I was pleased that my plan for Bob had come to fruition. By this point, the town was buzzing, as news events in my hometown don't stay secret for long. Bob faced disgrace and was swiftly fired due to his medicament possession. Bob faced disgrace and was swiftly fired due to his medicament possession. That night, I visited my parents and informed them, along with Lola's parents, about the situation. I omitted some details and mentioned that I was moving back to the city after a promotion, but Lola wouldn't be joining me. Initially upset for not being kept in the loop, they were eventually pleased that I handled things maturely and didn't stoop to their level, although they disagreed with the decision to ghost Lola. After some drinks, laughs, and tears, I headed home on Friday afternoon after a busy week organizing cleaners for the following week, coordinating with the real estate agent to put my house on the rental market, and handling various tasks at my hometown's office. I packed some things into my car, drove to my parents' place, said goodbye, and before leaving, visited Catherine's house. Catherine, one of Lola's childhood friends and the only other person aware of the situation, played a crucial role. Without her help with the details about Bob, I probably wouldn't have been able to organize everything as quickly. I handed Catherine a large manila folder with evidence of Lola's cheating, along with a letter and legal documents from my attorney instructing Lola not to contact me and providing details on how to access her belongings in the storage unit I rented. After a quick goodbye, I left and drove back to the city. On Sunday, I woke up to several missed calls, voice messages, and text messages. It turned out Lola had returned early, alarmed by something in town, only to find an empty house and a for rent sign out front. Panicking, she went to my parents, who closed the door on her, forcing her to contact everyone until she reached Catherine, informed that she had a package. I learned she didn't take it well, evident from the numerous angry texts and voice messages accusing me of framing Bob and being deceitful. I feared she'd show up at my front door, but nothing happened. 6 weeks later, having left and received a promotion, I'm happy and settled.